Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Now, I love Star Wars, and Ahsoka Tano is my favorite character in the entire franchise. So when I heard that she was getting her own show, I was through the roof. And finding out that it's like a continuation of the Rebels TV show made me even more thrilled, because that show is what got me into Star Wars to begin with. So anyway, we're here today to listen to me fanboy over the Ahsoka show that recently came out on Disney+. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. Thank you! Now first we do have to give a little rundown of what the show is and what happens in it. If you've already watched it, then feel free to skip to this time in the video. So Ahsoka takes place shortly after the events of Mandalorian Season 3 and about 9 to 10 years after the Rebels finale. It follows former Jedi and Rebel Ahsoka Tano as she hears rumors that a dangerous Imperial Grand Admiral named Thrawn is planning on making his return to the known galaxy after being in exile for the past decade, and works to prevent that from happening. But as Thrawn's allies work against Ahsoka's, preventing his return to start another galactic war may prove more challenging than anticipated. That's the general idea of the show. Now let's quickly run through the full events before we get into my thoughts. So, we start off with Ahsoka and her droid Huyang traveling to a desolate planet and finding this ancient Night Sister relic that is allegedly a map for traveling to another galaxy. She doesn't know how to read it, so it's suggested that they go pay Ahsoka's old friend and former Padawan, Sabine Wren, a visit since she's an art history buff and can likely decode the map. So they go to the planet of Lothal and find Sabine, but it isn't just like a nice, happy reunion, because the two apparently parted ways angrily years ago after Sabine's initial Jedi training went horribly. So the two of them are on rocky terms at best, but she agrees to work out the map after realizing that it could potentially lead them to where her adoptive brother Ezra Bridger was jetted off into space in the Rebels finale. Unfortunately, Thrawn has allies that are seeking the map also, including a Night Sister witch named Morgan and two mercenaries that can use the Force named Baylan and Shin. They learn that the map is currently on Lothal with Sabine, so Shin is sent out to retrieve it. The two get into a lightsaber duel before Shin stabs Sabine and steals the map. Now with Sabine in the hospital and with the map gone, Ahsoka really doesn't trust her to help with the mission, so turns to New Republic General Hera Syndulla for help instead. They know Morgan is involved now, and since the witch was a notable former Imperial, they investigate one of the shipyards she used to be in charge of for any clues. Surprise, surprise, the shipyard is full of ex-Imperials and is running rampant with Imperial loyalists, and they attack Ahsoka and Hera, including an Inquisitor named Murak, who is working with Morgan and who briefly battles Ahsoka. But luckily, Hera was able to get a tracking device on the enemy ship, so now they can track them to wherever Morgan is going. But Hera is not unemployed like Jedi, so she has to get back to the New Republic and tells Ahsoka to go make up with Sabine and find Morgan. They do, and even decide to restart Sabine's Jedi training, though Huyang makes his opinion known that she's a terrible candidate for training, but the women tell him to shut up and mind his business. So they're able to track Morgan and her mercenaries to a planet at the edge of the galaxy, and what they find is this massive ring-like ship with a bunch of hyperdrives attached to it, so it can travel between galaxies. But Ahsoka and Sabine low-key get shot out of the sky and have to take cover on the planet's surface. Now Baylan, Shin, and Murak are sent to the planet's surface to protect the map as it sends the coordinates for where they're going in the massive ship. Ahsoka and Sabine take off to confront them, while Huyang stays behind to repair their ship. The ladies come across Shin and Murak in the forest, with Sabine getting a rematch against Shin and Ahsoka easily killing Murak. Well, can you really kill something that's already dead? Because he just deflates in a spew of Night Sister magic smoke. So Ahsoka makes it to the base on the planet where the map is sending its coordinates, but Baylan stands in her way. They fight, she's able to get the map, but it burns her so badly that she's thrown off balance and loses to Baylan. Sabine shows up at that moment and gets the map, trying to use destroying it as a leverage to get Baylan to back off from Ahsoka, but he ultimately just chucks Mother into the ocean. He then uses Sabine's desire to find Ezra to manipulate her into handing over the map. So the coordinates are sent to Morgan's ship, Baylan destroys the map, and then Sabine is taken prisoner aboard their ship. While all of that was going on, Hera is trying to appeal to the New Republic Council about this matter and get them to approve an investigation into Thrawn's possible return. They pretty much laugh in her face, so she's like, fine, I'll do it myself, and rallies together a squad of pilots to follow Ahsoka and Sabine to the planet that they're on. Unfortunately, by the time they get there, it's too late, and Morgan and her crew jet off at super light speed to another galaxy. So Hera and what's left of her team go down to the planet's surface and investigate as best as they can as to what happened, and trying to figure out where Ahsoka and Sabine are and where they're going. At one point, Hera's son Jason is hearing things in the ocean and convinces her to search for Ahsoka in very specific spots of the ocean. I realize that makes the kid look insane, but it's just Jedi shit, I promise. Cut back to Ahsoka. She's woken up in what's known as the World Between Worlds, a plane of existence outside time and space. And she meets the ghost of her master Anakin Skywalker here, who is like, hey girl, long time no see, I want to finish your training. So Ahsoka goes on this spiritual journey through her life, and is unraveling her feelings about her Jedi training taking place during a time of war. So most of what she learned was about how to fight and strategize, along with a hidden fear about possibly going down an evil path just like Anakin did by becoming Vader. And just trying to figure out how to live in a time of peace when most of her life has been taken up and shaped by war. When she's done, her body is transported back to the physical realm, and Hera and her team find her in the ocean. After resting a little bit, she uses the Force on the broken map pieces to figure out that Sabine gave it to Baylan and went with him to another galaxy. So now we gotta figure out how to get there. Well, when they first arrived at the planet, there were these space whale creatures called Purrgil there. Now, Purrgil have the ability to travel at light speed between galaxies, so Ahsoka turns to Huyang and is like, bestie, what if we get eaten by a whale? And Huyang is looking at her like, you want us to reenact the story of Jonah? So that's what they do. They get eaten by a whale and jet off into another galaxy to find Sabine and everyone else. But again, Hera has an actual job, one which she is about to get fired from, so she has to stay here and deal with the Council's wrath. So, because Hera went off and did her own thing after the New Republic laughed at her, she's now in very hot water. But fortunately, a cameo from C-3PO saying that Leia quietly approved the mission saves her from getting court-martialed. And the New Republic leader, Mon Mothma, pulls Hera aside afterwards and is like, be so serious with me, how bad is it with Thrawn? And Hera's like, honey, you really don't want to know, just prepare everything we got. Now, upon arriving at this other galaxy, the baddies and Sabine meet up with these older Night Sisters and Thrawn. Thrawn tells Sabine, so, I hear that you made a deal with Baylan to come find me in exchange for you finding Ezra. Okay, stupid move on your part, but okay, I'll help you. And he gives her some supplies to go find Ezra. He really doesn't care about either of them that much and just sends Baylan and Shin to track her, being like, look, if they're stranded here, cool. If you find them and kill them, also cool. I got bigger things to worry about, like getting back to civilization. To which Baylan turns to Shin and is like, okay, you go deal with that. Your training is complete. I'm gonna go listen to the voices in my head and go do a side quest. Bye! As it turns out, Sabine is able to find Ezra and the siblings are finally reunited. My loves. Now, with Ahsoka on the way, Thrawn is like, to defeat an enemy, you must know them. Get me everything you can possibly find on this Togruta. Do some internet stalking. And when Morgan later presents him with everything known about her, he's like, okay, so was part of the Rebel Alliance, cool, trained as a Jedi, interesting, master of... Oh, the fuck do you mean her master was Anakin Vader? Oh, hell no. I already know this bitch is crazy. Prepare for the worst. So Ahsoka arrives and evades Thrawn's air attacks before meeting up with Sabine and Ezra. Thrawn sends troopers after them alongside Shin, but the Dream Team is able to hold their own against them and send them back running. Okay, so Thrawn just about has all of his stuff packed up and is ready to fly away, so we're running out of time to deal with him. So Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra dash off to board his ship and stop him and his forces from leaving. They battle hordes of stormtroopers, the Night Sisters use magic to make them zombies, so they're even more of a pain to deal with. Ahsoka confronts Morgan in a duel to the death and wins. Sabine is finally able to tap into the Force and helps Ezra get aboard Thrawn's ship, but stays behind to help Ahsoka battle the remaining Imperial forces attacking her. Once Ahsoka and Sabine finally get rid of the Imperial soldiers, they get back to their ship and try as hard as they can to catch up with Thrawn's ship, but ultimately they can't and are stranded in another galaxy now. Thrawn and the Night Sisters, minus Morgan now, rest in peace, arrive back in the main galaxy that we know and love at Dathomir to start making calls and planning the Empire's return. But, on the bright side, Ezra is able to sneak off his ship and find Hera's New Republic fleet, and mother and son are reunited! Back in the other galaxy, everyone is figuring out what to do next. Balin is still on his side quest, which apparently has ties to the Mortis gods. Shin is allying with a group of bandits, and Ahsoka, Sabine, and Huyang go live with the turtle community that Ezra was a part of until they can figure out how to get home. And the final little shot shows Anakin's ghost watching over Ahsoka even all these years later. And that's the end of Season 1 of Ahsoka. Okay, my thoughts. Let's just say it, I loved this show. It's one of my favorite Star Wars projects in general, period. The characters, both new and returning, were amazing and so interesting to follow, no matter if they had big parts or small parts in the story. The action was amazing, especially the lightsaber fights. Like, this is the first time live-action duels have given me the same level of hype and excitement that animated duels have. And while I do agree that the story, at least parts of it, could have used more time in editing, overall I really liked it, and it was a very satisfying continuation for the story of the Rebels characters and a great piece in the New Republic era time period. Now, let's talk about the things that I loved and really worked for me in the show, and then after that we can talk about the stuff that didn't work quite as well for me. First of all, I call this the mother show because everyone in here is a mother, even the men. Ahsoka, Sabine, Hera, Chopper, Thrawn, Ezra, Morgan, Balin, Shin, Anakin, the Great Mothers, Huyang, everyone is my new favorite character. I love them all so much. And I've never said that about a show before. You know, usually there's always at least like one or two characters that are just like kind of annoying, or like you don't really care about them strongly either way. But no, I literally love everyone here and need to see more of them. And the cast is amazing. Literally everyone brings great performances to the show, especially Ray Stevenson with Balin. Rest in peace, he will be missed. The action is so visually great. Space fights always look pretty cool, so that's nothing new, but it's worth mentioning. Especially when Ahsoka and Huyang are like flying through the minefield alongside the Purrgil. Like, that scene was very intense to watch, and honestly, now I want more space minefields in Star Wars. Like, we need more of that. And I know I already mentioned the lightsaber duels, but let's mention them again, because they were phenomenal. Ahsoka vs. Vader, Sabine and Shin's fights, Ahsoka's duels with Balin, the Dream Team trio fighting the Stormtrooper army, and especially Ahsoka's fight with Morgan. Like, that one in particular was so clean and precise, and the sound effects were so satisfying. The prequels were finally dethroned for having the best live-action duels, and that's a fact, okay? Art is subjective, but if you disagree with that, you're just factually, scientifically, mathematically, medically, politically, and spiritually wrong on that. Just wrong. Sorry, not sorry, I don't make the rules. Now, let's talk about some other stuff in more detail. First up, the center points of the show, Ahsoka and Sabine. I love them. Ahsoka is my favorite character in the whole franchise, and Sabine is just up there in the top 10 also. I really liked their relationship here and them working to trust each other again after bad stuff happened in their past. And I know the dude bros are raging about Sabine becoming a Jedi, but honestly, I'm here for it. And the unconventionalness of it all is like very interesting to me. To me, it feels like exactly what the Force was always meant to be in Star Wars. That it resides and works through everyone, and that even though calling upon its power is much easier for some, anyone can do it if they have enough belief and knowledge on how to do so. I also just really like that even though Sabine really doesn't have more sensitivity than, like, an average person, that doesn't stop Ahsoka from working with her and trying to train her. And I think that can also speak to how the Jedi of the Clone Wars era lost their way so much from how the Jedi are supposed to be. and got so stuck in things like strict rules and, oh, you have to have this many midichlorians or you're just not worth our time training. Because no one on the council even would have bothered to take her on as an apprentice because her sensitivity is so low. So I think it's really interesting that someone like Ahsoka, who experienced the Jedi Order's bad side firsthand and rejected them and their ways, like to see her go on this journey for decades, finding herself and her own relationship and view of the Force, to where it has kinda led her back to the ways of the Jedi, but not as they once were when they fell, but rather what they were originally meant to almost be, basically. 'Cause she's reached a point where she's like, hey, the Force is in all living things, that means everyone has potential to use it. If this girl wants to learn the ways of summoning that power, who am I to gatekeep that knowledge from her just cause it doesn't come as naturally to her like it does me? To me, that's exactly how the Force was always meant to work, and I'm glad that in this show it's finally being portrayed as such. Not everyone will understand that because for so long the Force has been portrayed as like a magic power that you're either born with or not, but honestly, I understand the vision here and fully support it. Also, can I just say that Rosario Dawson has really come into her own with this role portraying Ahsoka? Like, she was never bad in this role. Let's get that out of the way first of all. She was never bad. But I can definitely see that there has been growth and learning with her relationship to this character. And that, to me at least, she looks more comfortable than ever playing Ahsoka. I love that. And she does an amazing job portraying an older, wiser Ahsoka that has seen and experienced so many things throughout her life, including 2 wars, death, seeing her master become a Sith, the fall of the Order she grew up in, and the very mystical side of the Force that even quite a few Jedi don't know anything about. Give her her props. She's wonderful in this show and commands the screen when she's on. While we're here, let's also give Hayden his flowers for this role. Now, I'll be the first to say I didn't really like Hayden as Anakin in the prequels. Like, episodes 2 and 3, I didn't really like him there. But him last year in the Kenobi show was great, and him this year in Ahsoka was amazing. First of all, I know that man went and studied the Clone Wars show to prepare for the flashback scenes, cause everything about him, from the way he spoke to how he walked to how he stood, mimicked how Anakin is in that show perfectly. But what I, and a lot of people, want to really highlight is how he fights with Ahsoka in that episode. You could tell when it was Anakin fighting Ahsoka versus when it was Vader fighting Ahsoka, just from the way he carried himself. Yes, obviously give credit to the fight coordinator for choreographing the amazing fights, but also give props to Hayden, cause he was really able to sell the difference in how Anakin clearly just wanted to like test and spar with Ahsoka, versus Vader literally wanting to kill her and chop her head off. So props to him, I really loved him in this show. Now, I'm pretty sure we all knew Thrawn was going to return to the main galaxy at some point. I think we all knew that from the moment Ahsoka name-dropped him in Mando Season 2. And I'm not mad about it. I'm honestly very excited to see what comes of this. Obviously, he will be defeated whenever this, like, Mandoverse era comes to a close, but I'm excited to see how it will be done, but also how it plays a role in forming the First Order. Because at this point in the story, the Imperial remnants are pretty hyped and ready to go, making themselves known and uniting and trying to start a war against the New Republic. But we've still got like 15 or so years before the First Order becomes like a legitimate thing, and like another 20 to 25 years before The Force Awakens. So obviously Thrawn's defeat will play a major role in how the ex-Imperials go about trying to bring back the Empire in some way or form, and I'm very curious to see how that will play out. But back to his place in Ahsoka. I liked him. Thrawn felt intimidating, he felt cool, it was nice to see him like strategize and it actually worked for once in the shows, cause in Rebels, he was always getting beat. But so it was nice to like see him actually, win at the end in this show. I know quite a few Thrawn stans on Twitter are not happy about him in the show, especially when he said, "Long live the Empire." But I think we all kinda learned at this point that book Thrawn and show Thrawn are gonna be a bit different in how they act, so I kinda just expected it at this point. Plus, also, I think people need to remember that the Thrawn books, at least the first trilogy, I haven't read the Ascendancy trilogy yet, mostly take place from his POV and his allies' POV, while the shows take place from his enemies' POV. So, of course, he's going to look more sympathetic in his own books and more evil in the shows. Moving right along. Okay, as a Night Sister stan, this show delivered and made me very happy. First of all, Night Sisters in live action, finally! Yes! I love that. Second, I loved all the characters. Like I said before, Morgan is so cool to follow around. I love her vibe. I love her energy. She's just cool. She's just so interesting. I love, evil queen-like characters, and that's kind of what she gives. She's just cool to follow around. And the Great Mothers are so scary, but in, a good way. They are so intimidating. I love them all. Third, I love the snippets of lore. Finding out that the Night Sisters were originally from the other galaxy, and that they were one of the first species to ever ride the Purrgil, and that's how they got to Dathomir, very interesting. I love everything related to Night Sisters and Night Sister lore. And the scream I let out when the Great Mother summoned that sword and gave it to Morgan and said it was the blade of Talzin. Ooh, I love Mother Talzin, so that little Easter egg did make me jump. Okay, next thing. Wolfren needs to happen. I do not care. I love a good enemies to lover story. I heard it was the actress's choice to make Shin and Sabine's interactions as fruity as possible, and they are so mother for that, because that was exactly the right call. I want to see them get together by the end of next season. Their combined lesbian power alone is powerful enough to stop Thrawn. Period. End of discussion. Next, I am so happy that not only is Ezra alive, but that he got to go home. Part of me was always worried that they were going to kill him off the next time we saw Thrawn, but I am so happy they didn't. He looked good, he looked happy and healthy, traveling with his, turtle crab clan. I love the scene where him and Sabine finally reunite, the siblings are back together at last. This is what I've been waiting for. And him reuniting with Hera and Chopper, oh my god, that's literally mother and son. And he finally gets to meet Jason, oh my god. And the way Chopper knew it was Ezra even before he took off the trooper helmet, oh my god, my heart. I loved it, I loved it, I loved it. And I need to see him and Zeb's reunion soon. And when he was building his new lightsaber and Hu Yang said the top piece, emitter I think it's called, was one of only 2 pieces he had in his whole collection, and that the other piece of that exact kind, the other one belonged to Kanan. Oh my god, I'm going to combust. Oh my god, yeah. And Amon Esfandi did such a great job bringing him to life, especially in the moments where Ezra is being a complete and total dumbass. When there's 50 blasters and a lightsaber pointed at him, and he's like, hey, why don't we just talk about this? You want to take us prisoner instead? Hey, we don't need to shoot. It's all good. That's literally my boy right there, brought directly from animation. I'm just so happy that we got Ezra back and can continue his story now, because, here's the thing. When Rebels debuted, I was just about the same age as the character, so I kind of grew up alongside him throughout my teen years while watching the show, which just makes him extra special to me, and I really didn't want to say goodbye to him forever just yet, So I'm so happy that he's back. Next, this show would not be complete without Hu Yang. His frequent sarcastic comments and bits of older rational thinking and wisdom just tie the whole dynamic together, especially between Ahsoka and Sabine. I love Hu Yang, and I want to see more of him on his adventures with Ahsoka and Sabine. I also want to learn how him and Ahsoka met and what he was doing after Order 66 before he joined up with her. Alright, now let's talk about the things that didn't work quite as well for me. Really, though, everything that I have a minor complaint about is so very, very minor and didn't affect my enjoyment of the show whatsoever. It's really just stuff that's I like this, but it could have been done a bit better. First off, I really wish Hera had been given more to do. I get that her main role in the show is to be the character that shows the audience just how delusional the New Republic government is and how they just don't ever want to believe that the Empire could ever come back in any way. Obviously, showing how the New Republic's denial of reality ultimately gives way for these Imperial remnants to band together and form the First Order one day, like, I get that. Here's our perspective for all that. But I also just wish she had been more involved in the action. I mean, she investigates with Ahsoka a bit, but doesn't really get to do much of anything after that. She shows up too late to be useful in stopping Morgan from getting to the other galaxy, and doesn't go with Ahsoka to the other galaxy because she's fighting to keep her job in the military. I was just kinda hoping that the ghost would also get eaten by a star whale and Hera, helps out in the other galaxy to stop Thrawn from returning. That's all. Also, whoever cut Hera's and Ezra's reunion scene right as they were about to hug, I will see you in court, bitch. I will see you in court. You're paying for my therapy bills. Next, villain motivations. Specifically Baylan and the Great Mothers. What is their goals? I mean, Baylan just keeps saying I'm hearing voices, something calls to me to pursue a much greater power beyond anyone's understanding. But it's okay, any idea what or who is calling and what that higher power may be? We know it has something to do with the Mortis gods, so there is stuff to make theories with there, but can you just give us a hint as to what you want? Side note on him, I do wish we knew what it was that made him fall to the dark side. Yes, it's something related to the fall of the Jedi and rise of the Empire, that much is clear. But many other Jedi who lived through Order 66 didn't fall to the dark side and either kept to the old traditions or adapted to survive but never lost that light within themselves the way Baylan did. I just wish we knew what it was that made him go dark. As for the Great Mothers, I want to know what their deal with Thrawn is. Why work with him? What do they want? What has he promised them? Especially to the degree that they would become subservient to him. Not just a partnership where him and them have equal power in the relationship. No, he's their boss, and they follow him and his every order willingly. I want to know why they follow him like that, and what they're getting out of this. 'Cause I'm just saying, Mother Talzin would never have entered a subservient deal with a Grand Admiral, especially one that's a man. Girl, she was beefing with Darth Sidious for crying out loud. The Great Mother has higher standards. I'm under the impression that they don't really know about the Separatist/Empire committing genocide against the Night Sisters of Dathomir, or at least not the full story there. 'Cause if they did, I would expect they wouldn't be so kind to Thrawn and his Imperial people. So I'd be curious to know what happens if they ever did find out about that piece of history. How would it change their relationship with the Grand Admiral? Next, Ahsoka's fear about turning out like Anakin did by becoming Vader. This isn't something I ever really thought about until the show brought this up, and now I really want to dive into the fear, and I want to know exactly what Ahsoka was thinking about in relation to all that, all throughout the 11 to 12 years since the Rebels Season 2 finale, to now. Her being scared about potentially falling to the dark side like Annie did is a very interesting thing, and while it is brought up a few times throughout this season and she unpacks it and works through it, I would have loved it if it had been delved deeper into. I don't know, just something I would have loved to have been explored more, especially in that episode where she does go on that spiritual journey with Anakin. Finally, info about the first time Ahsoka tried to train Sabine. We get just enough information about that time to be able to form a very rough timeline of events, but honestly I would have liked more details, especially since them mending their relationship is a big part of the season. But we don't really have that full background information to make it as emotionally impactful as it could have been and should have been. We know at some point Ahsoka took Sabine on as an apprentice, most likely during the events of the original trilogy, since that makes the most logical sense, and also Ezra really had no idea about her training, so it likely began after the Rebels series finale. And we know that the relationship ended when the Empire committed genocide against Mandalore, because Huyang says Ahsoka was scared to train Sabine anymore right after that because she was so emotionally distressed she could have fallen to the dark side. But beyond that, we really don't know the timeline of events, or what their master-apprentice relationship was like, or why Ahsoka thought she would be a good apprentice to begin with. I don't know, I just would have liked more info from that era, from like the first time that they tried to train together, and, presumably at least why they chose to pursue that by themselves, instead of joining up with the main rebellion during the events of the original trilogy. At least that's what I think happened. Those are the main things I took a bit of issue with while watching Ahsoka, but like I said, they really weren't enough to spoil any enjoyment I got while watching, and really I'm not worried about any of these lingering questions about like Balin, the Great Mothers, Ahsoka, or Sabine, because all of these things can be answered in the future, whether in the second season, or in the books, or comics, or whatever. But yeah, I love this show in pretty much every single way, and I am so excited for a second season. Granted, it's not confirmed yet, but come on. This show is a big hit, it's Star Wars, you know it's gonna make money, you left it on massive cliffhangers, there's gonna be a season 2. Come on, just greenlight it already. And also, Disney, pay your fucking actors. Anyway, all I know is that Rebel Stands really won with this show. We did. And that's it from me. What are your thoughts on the Ahsoka series? Did you like it? Are you tasteless and hated it? Let me know in the comments. And remember that if you enjoyed this video, then please be sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos from me. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.